Geographic patterns in Africa include the following: tropical rainforests, which are forests of tall trees in a region of year-round warmth. Savannas are grassy plains in tropical and subtropical regions, with few trees. Deserts, who have little precipitation in their barren area of land. Cataracts are just large waterfalls. The Great Rift Valley is a continuous trench that runs from northern Syria to central Mozambique in southeastern Africa. The Mediterranean Sea is a sea connected to the Atlantic Ocean surrounded by the Mediterranean region. The Red Sea is a seawater inlet of the Indian Ocean, lying between Africa and Asia.
Since ancient times, Africa's mineral wealth has spurred trade across the continent. Salt, gold, iron, and copper were particularly valuable items to early trade and brought great wealth and power to African trading cities. Trade also linked Africa to other continents. Early trade was greatly expanded by camels. In 200 AD, these camels had revolutionized trade across the Sahara. Although early traders had made the difficult desert crossing in horse-drawn chariots, camel caravans created new trade networks. Camels could carry heavy loads and plod 20 or 30 miles a day, often without water. The caravans brought great profits to merchants on both sides of the Sahara.
By 500 BC, Assyrian invaders had forced Nubian rulers to move their capital from Napata to Meroe. Meroe eventually commanded both the Nile's north-south trade route and the east-west trade route from the Red Sea to North Africa. Along this trade route, Nubia sent many goods such as gold, ivory, animal skins, perfumes, and enslaved people to the Mediterranean world in Southwest Asia. Meroe's location was a key factor in its success as a center of trade. Also important was the region's resources. Meroe was very plentiful in iron. They also had an abundance of timber, which encouraged the people to produce the iron tools and weaponry needed to feed, control, and defend the kingdom.
Carthage was founded by Phoenician traders and came to dominate western Mediterranean trade. From 800 BC to 146 BC, it forged an empire that stretched from present-day Tunisia, Algeria, and Morocco to southern Europe. Territorial and trade rivalries between Rome and Carthage eventually led to a series of conflicts called the Punic Wars. At the end of the Third Punic War, the Romans literally burned Carthage to the ground.
In the 690s, Muslim Arabs conquered and occupied the cities of North Africa. By the early 700s, they had successfully conquered the Berbers, a largely nomadic North African people. Under Arab command, Islam eventually replaced Christianity as the dominant religion of North Africa, and Arabic replaced Latin as the official language. Muslim civilization began in cities such as Cairo, Fez, and Marrakesh, which became famous for their mosques and universities. Over time, Muslim traders from North Africa carried Islam into West Africa.
As the Sahara dried out, some Neolithic people migrated southward into the savanna. By AD 100, settled agricultural villages were expanding, and this expansion from farming villages to towns was due to the development of trade. Farming villages began to produce a surplus. They began to trade their surplus food for products from other villages. Gradually, a trade network linked the savanna to forest lands in the south and then funneled goods across the Sahara to civilizations along the Mediterranean and in Southwest Asia. From West Africa, caravans crossed the Sahara carrying leather goods, kola nuts, cotton cloth, and enslaved people. From North Africa, Arab and Berber merchants brought silk, metal, beads, and horses.
Two products, gold and salt, dominated the Sahara trade. Gold was widely available in the area of present-day Ghana, Nigeria, and Senegal. It was found in the soil along rivers in various forms, including gold nuggets and dust. In exchange, West Africans traded for an equally valuable product: salt. People need salt in their diet, especially in hot, tropical areas, to replace salt lost in perspiration. Salt was also important for its use in food preservation. The Sahara had an abundance of salt. But in the savannah, several hundred miles south, salt was scarce. In fact, when caravans reached the Kingdom of Ghana, merchants would pay 1 pound of gold for 1 pound of salt.
The capital of Ghana was Kumbi Saleh, which was made up of two separate walled towns 6 miles apart. The first town was dominated by the royal palace, which was surrounded by a complex of domed buildings. Here, in a court noted for its wealth and splendor, The king of Ghana presided over elaborate ceremonies. To his people, he was a godlike figure who administered justice and kept order. In the second town of Kumbi-Saleh, prosperous Muslim merchants from north of the Sahara lived in luxurious stone buildings. Lured by the gold wealth of Ghana, these merchants helped make Kumbi-Saleh a bustling center of trade.
Mali is an Arab version of the Mandinka word that means where the king dwells. The Manses, or kings of Mali, expanded their influence over gold mining regions to the south and the salt supplies of Tagaza. The greatest ruler of the kingdom of Mali was Mansa Musa, who came to the throne in about 1312. He expanded Mali's borders westward to the Atlantic Ocean and pushed northward to conquer many cities. During his 25-year reign, Mansa Musa worked to ensure peace and order in his empire. He converted to Islam and based his system of justice on the Quran. However, in order to ensure prosperity and peace in his kingdom, he did not impose Islam on the people, but promoted religious freedom and tolerance.
Songhai developed in the region at the bend of the Niger River in present-day Mali and Niger. Between 1464 and 1492, the soldier king Soni Ali built the largest state that had ever existed in West Africa. Soni Ali brought trade routes and wealthy cities like Timbuktu under his control. Soon after Soni Ali's death in 1492, the Emperor Askia Muhammad set up a Muslim dynasty. He further expanded the territory of Songhai and improved the government. To run the empire more efficiently, he set up a bureaucracy with separate departments for farming, the military, and treasury. Each was supervised by officials appointed by the emperor. Askia Muhammad made a pilgrimage to Mecca that led to stronger ties with the wider Muslim world. Scholars from Muslim lands flocked to Askia Muhammad's court at Gao. In towns and cities across Songhai, he built mosques and opened schools for the study of the Quran.
Although smaller than the great kingdoms of Ghana, Mali, and Songhai, other societies flourished in West Africa in the period from 500 to 1500. The kingdom of Benin developed in the rainforest, while the fertile northern lands of modern-day Nigeria were home to the Hausa people. As in the larger kingdoms, farming and trading were also key to the success and prosperity of these societies.
South of the savannah, Benin rose in the rainforests of the Guinea coast. The forest people built farming villages and traded pepper, ivory, and slaves to their neighbors in the savannah. The rulers of Benin organized their kingdom in the 1300s. Their king was a political, judicial, and religious leader. A 3-mile-long wall surrounded the capital, Benin City. There, a great palace was decorated with elaborate brass plaques and sculptures. Benin sculptors developed their own unique style for representing the human face and form. Their works depicted warriors, queen mothers, and the king himself.
The Hausa had built a number of independent clay-walled cities. Over time, these cities expanded into thriving commercial centers where cotton weavers and dyers, leather workers, and other artisans produced goods for sale. Merchants traded with Arab and Berber caravans from north of the Sahara. Hausa goods were sold as far away as North Africa and southern Europe. Kano was the most prosperous Hausa city-state. Its walls, over 12 miles in circumference and up to 50 feet high, protected a population of more than 30,000. Many Hausa rulers were women, such as Amina of the city-state of Zazzau, which is located in present-day Nigeria. In the late 1500s, she conquered Kano and other regions, expanding the boundary of Zaria as far as the Niger River. Under Amina, the Hausa came to dominate many Saharan trade routes.
The Kingdom of Aksum profited from the strategic location of its two main cities, the port of Adulis on the Red Sea and the upland capital city of Aksum. By AD 400, the kingdom commanded a triangular trade network that connected Africa, India, and the Mediterranean world. A great variety of goods and slaves funneled in and out of the marketplaces of these two cities. From the interior of Africa, traders brought ivory, animal hides, and gold to the markets of Aksum. Goods from further south along the African coast came to the harbor of Adulis on the Red Sea. There, the markets offered iron, spices, precious stones, and cotton cloth from India and other lands beyond the Indian Ocean. Ships carried these goods to the Red Sea, where they collected goods from Europe and countries along the Mediterranean.
Greek, Egyptian, Arab, and Jewish merchants mingled with traders from Africa, India, and other regions. As elsewhere, ideas spread along with goods. By the 300s, Christianity had reached the region. After converting to the new religion, King Azana made Christianity the official religion of Axum. At first, Christianity strengthened the ties between Axum, North Africa, and the Mediterranean world. In the 600s, however, Islam began spreading across North Africa and other regions surrounding Axum. Many African rulers embraced this new faith, creating strong cultural ties across much of the continent. Axum, which remained Christian, was now isolated from its own trade network, by distance from Europe, and by religion from many former trading partners. Civil war and economic decline combined to weaken Axum, and the kingdom slowly declined.
While Axum declined, a string of commercial cities gradually arose along the East African coast. Since ancient times, Phoenician, Greek, Roman, and Indian traders had visited this region. Under the protection of local African rulers, Arab and Persian merchants set up Muslim communities beginning in the 600s. Port cities as well as offshore islands such as Lamu and Zanzibar were ideally located for trade with Asia. As a result, Asian traders and immigrants from as far away as Indonesia soon added to the rich cultural mix.
By the 600s, sailors had learned that the annual monsoon winds could carry sailing ships between India and Africa. On the East African coast, rulers took advantage of the opportunities for trade that these winds provided. They welcomed ships from Arabia, Persia, and China. Traders acquired ivory, leopard skins, iron, copper, and gold from the interior of Africa, as well as from coastal regions. From India, Southeast Asia, and China came cotton cloth, silk, spices, porcelain, glassware, and swords. Trade was not only beneficial to the merchants, it also helped local rulers build strong independent city-states. Although they competed for trade, relations between the city-states were generally peaceful.
The successful East African international trade system led to the emergence of a vibrant culture and a new language, both known as Swahili. By the 1000s, many East African coastal cities had not only grown in wealth, but also in size. Traders from the Middle East and Asia began to settle permanently in flourishing trading cities such as Kilwa. As more settlers arrived, the local East African culture absorbed cultural elements from these new residents. For example, the architecture of private houses and palaces illustrated a blend of East African and Arabic designs that created unique and elegant Swahili buildings and furniture. In addition, over time, many Arabic words were absorbed into the local Bantu-based language.
Great Zimbabwe was built by a succession of Bantu-speaking people who settled in the region between 900 and 1500. These newcomers brought iron mining methods and improved farming skills. The capital reached its height about 1300. By then, it had tapped nearby gold resources and created profitable commercial links with coastal cities such as Sofala. Archaeologists have found beads from India and porcelain from China, showing that Great Zimbabwe was part of a trade network that reached across the Indian Ocean. In addition, they have found artifacts that indicate that Great Zimbabwe had artisans skilled in making jewelry and weaving cotton cloth. Very little is known about the government in Great Zimbabwe.